We are now 3 weeks from opening day, and today we will take a look around the other teams in the American League. Everyone, buckle up. Good evening, everybody. It is Thursday, March 6th, and welcome to episode 237 of Buds and Blue Jays. It's your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm Jesse Burrell, not joined by Jesse Tricio today. We are calling up some friends to discuss more than just the Toronto Blue Jays. We are joined by Chris and Andrew of the Coach's Son podcast. Gentlemen, glad to have you both back on the show, as longtime listeners have had you both individually before, and now we've got both of you guys on the show. Glad to have you.
I don't know if you're ready.
Yeah, let's say you're outnumbered now. That's a bad idea.
Okay, guys, one rule here before we get going. You're not allowed to bully the Blue Jays fan, okay? Some things are going to be very hard for us this summer. We've gone through a lot of pain over the last year and a half, so you got to be nice to us, all right? Deal?
That's a deal. I did the best I can to find Blue Jays colors, right? So I have this like a Haas quarter zip, so I'm trying to represent the best I can.
I have no Blue Jays gear. I'm wearing Red Sox. Sorry. I went AL East.
Who invited this guy on this show? Yikes. Please be nice in the chat, guys, to Chris while he joins us here.
Or not. It's funnier when you're not nice to Chris.
That is true. All right, guys. Well, today on the show, as promised, we are going to take a look around the rest of the American League, see what some of the other teams in our division have done, where exactly the Toronto Blue Jays are going to shape up. We'll talk about some players we think could surprise us, some players that might disappoint us, and see exactly where we fit in the big picture of the AL East. But first, guys, it was a big week around the Toronto Blue Jays. Spring is in the air. We're kind of about midway through spring training, and I know this might be tough for some guys who aren't specifically Toronto Blue Jays fans coming first. But I do have to mention some good things that have come out of Toronto Blue Jays camps that the fan base would murder me if we did not mention up. So I had this segment called 3 Up, 3 Down, and we will go through some of the storylines or some of the promising things that have come out of camp. But first, guys, I want to get your take from the outside looking in as Andrew just pieces. He just bails.
Yeah. He gone. All right. You got me. What do you want to know?
All right. I said we want to talk about some good things, and there he goes. All right. He's back. All good. No foul. First things first, guys. Kevin Gausman got onto the mound this week. He looked very good, guys. What is your take before I dive deep of what we saw from Gausman of how his season went last season, and what do you expect from him this year?
I'll start. He kind of, from my perspective, a little bit underperformed from what he's normally accustomed to. To me, that was a little bit of an old age starting to show. So I thought, actually had a chance to trade for him in my dynasty league and went against it. And then 2 days later, I saw all the stuff about his, speed on pitches going up and him having a solid outing. So I was about $1 short on him. But I like him overall. He, correct me if I'm wrong, he is your ace. He should be getting the ball opening day from how I perceive it. I guess maybe you give it to Scherzer. I don't know. But
Barrios probably, actually.
Oh yeah. Holy hell. Forgot about that guy.
See, you're missing somebody.
Yeah, we did. Well, I want to give it to Gausman. How about that? But
me too.
He's still at a, I'm a generic number guy. So still at a 3.83 ERA. Still a good, not a huge strikeout numbers that he's accustomed to. So strikeouts went down a good bit. So if that velocity is what he needs to get back those strikeout numbers and become that workhorse again, then all power to him. Again, I would be excited if I were you after seeing that outing. However, I'm also on record saying, I don't care about spring training. Talk to me when the season starts.
Honestly, that is probably the right move to take. Andrew, do you have a thought on Gausman?
I mean, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but he's 34, right? Mm-hmm. So I think last year is probably the new normal. Pitchers, they hit that. I mean, there's some that actually come back and can stay strong, but I don't think you go into the season expecting a lot other than what you got. I believe his whip was pretty standard. You want more out of that. So one good outing is great, but he's 34. You need a lot more than just one outing. So I tend to lean a little more negative. You guys have other good pitchers. So you just want him to eat innings. And so if he can do that, I think that's going to be a success, but it's not ace territory. It's probably not a 2-starter territory. It's like he's going to be a solid 3 or 4 for us and eat innings so that, our real aces can rest and get the job done later.
Okay. With everything you said in mind, and that the fact that you guys are probably right, I'm here to tell you why Kevin Gausman is going to come back.
I love
talked all last year about the fact that Kevin Gausman's velocity went down. He kind of lost his splitter, which was his bread and butter, the whole thing that made him the guy who was dominant for 3 or 4 years there. And it could have just been a sign of decline, a sign of aging. He did get better in the second half. He went on a good run. I think he had a mid-2s ERA for like the last 6 weeks of the season. And his fastball velocity has ticked up this spring. And what I've noticed the most that I really liked is that he's getting more movement on that splitter, and the separation between his fastball and his splitter has been a lot better. And when you're a predominantly 2-pitch pitcher like Kevin Gausman is, having the wide variance in those is good. And that's what I saw this spring from Gausman in his start. So I wanted to make sure we see that going forward. On the offensive side for the Blue Jays camp, I just want to mention just some names here, guys. And if there's anyone that sparks to you that you want to go in about, sure, go for it. But these are just some names of guys who are having good springs, which could be relevant if they go well going forward. Ernie Clement, Bo Bichette, Alejandro Kirk is one I want to put a pin in here. But Vlad Jr., Andres Jimenez, who we just got from Cleveland, is actually having a very good spring with the bat, which is good to see. And Davis Schneider is looking good as well after he was being very much a 0 last year. So guys, from the outside looking in, do any of these names intrigue you at all?
Oh, I'll start this one. I mean, Vlad has to be intriguing, right? Because of the contract negotiation. I don't want to say failure. Who knows what really happened, but the fact that he doesn't have one, it's a contract year. He's going to be showing out. So I expect really big numbers because he wants that really big contract. So I think, how do you ignore Vlad at this point? It's just, he's going to go off, I think.
Great call, Andrew. Contract year Vlad is a smart thing to bet on. Chris, did you have a name there that caught your attention at all?
I mean, the low-hanging fruit is to talk Bo Bichette and how, besides Vlad, you're going to go as he goes. But I don't want to do that. Obviously, he's an important piece. Everybody knows that. If he doesn't perform, the team's performance probably isn't going to follow suit. Jimenez is going to be solid, I think, no matter what goes on. But I guess Davis Schneider slash Ernie Clement are kind of interesting. But Schneider,
they're roommates, by the way, the two of them. So take that for
they
what it's
could
worth.
probably go pass as the same person, honestly, if it all came down to it. But Davis Schneider, I mean, I didn't know how poor, miserable, not good he was last year, and boy, that was pretty sour. So if you're going to compare, what he did last year to his current spring, yeah, you should be excited. But again, I'm here to say it's spring training. Let's calm down a little bit, and I guess we'll see what happens. But
Chris, let people be excited about.
Come on, Chris.
Come on. Should be, but you should be, because maybe he, whatever it was, maybe he was banged up, maybe he was, made a few changes in the off season, and it could be a positive sign, right? When somebody's was that poor and is now progressing to an extent that, it's 13 at bats. I'm looking at MLB stats right now,
right?
Like a 1.92 OPS. That's kind of, insane, unheard of, unsustainable. However, your first 13 at bats after a long off season and after a terrible season beforehand, that's encouraging. Not to say he's going to be a 900 OPS guy, but if you get 750, then you're happy out of him. And hopefully you get more.
Hit a home run today, too, for what it's worth, for Davis Schneider. So that is very nice as well. I wanted to bring up Alejandro Kirk. I will tell anybody who will listen to me that Alejandro Kirk is set up for the best offensive season in his career. And this guy's already won a Silver Slugger award. So if you're playing in a 2-catcher fantasy league draft, Chris, this year, and you want a dynasty target you can probably have very cheap, I would recommend Alejandro Kirk. Hitting the ball as hard as he ever has before. He's got a home run this spring as well. He's been hammering doubles off the wall. His bat speed has increased since StatCast came out with the metric, over 2 miles per hour over the course of the year. He's lost weight. He even hit a triple last year. Man. I'm telling you, Alejandro Kirk is coming together. He's now in the Benji Molina club of big catchers who have hit a triple before. So I'm telling you, big spring, and it's coming. On top of all the work he does behind the plate as well.
I can get on board with him because he's got my measurables. He's 5 foot. Yeah. He's listed 5'8". He's listed 245.
Chris, you're not 5'8".
We're not so different, him and I. My license says 5'9", for those wondering. I'm not that. I'll tell you that.
This is not a dating app. You're not 5'8".
But anyway, him and I eye to eye. I'm with him. I could get on board with Alejandro Kirk. Number 30. That's one of my favorite numbers. I'm in.
Oh yeah.
You convinced me. I don't know if I could put him on my fantasy team, but I'll root for him.
He said 2 catcher fantasy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right. He did say 2. That's fine. He could be
put him on that watch list and stream him if need be.
Sounds good.
On the pitching side for the Blue Jays that have stood out this spring, Jeff Hoffman looks nasty. And Andrew, I know you as a Braves guy have seen quite a bit of Jeff Hoffman coming out of that Phillies bullpen for the last few seasons. I think he struck out 70% of the batters he's faced this spring. So good for Jeff Hoffman. And
good
on the
riddance.
pitching side, too, yes. Max Scherzer has also looked great, guys. And I know you guys brought up a little bit about Max Scherzer on your last episode, talking more about the ABS and all that stuff like that. But on the field, guys, he's got 8 strikeouts in his 5 innings of work this string. Like the swinging strikes are there. And from watching the starts, it's not like the Max Scherzer who's 20 in a game guy. Just a mic issue there. We're all good. Not the guy that's here anymore, but also like he looks like he could actually be an impact piece as long as he can stay on the field. So guys, what do you think about a 40-year-old Max Scherzer?
I mean, listen, I got the benefit of a comeback Chris Sale last year, right? So the old guys can, especially the super talented ones like a Sale, like a Scherzer. And Scherzer's a maniac. Like the guy, if he pitches, he's going to be competitive, right? So I think it's one of those things that you're excited about it, but you also are probably going to watch every other start going, okay, don't overdo it. We need you all year. And I think that's going to be the roller coaster for you guys. But I do think you're going to get some really, really productive games out of him for sure.
Yeah,
that's exactly what we need.
I think expectations need to be tempered in terms of how many innings. I think you talked about it before, and I don't know exactly what you guys had said, you and Jesse, but just like what you think a good set number of innings would be from him, right? Are you going to see 150? I would say no, right? That seems highly unlikely, but he is only 2 years removed from 152 and the year before that 145. And at those numbers, you're pretty satisfied if he just pitches normal. Last year didn't really pitch a ton, only had 9 starts. So and that's concerning, right? I think it was some back issues, things like that. But if he's healthy and you're going to get 20 plus starts out of him, then I think that's a successful signing overall. But if you get stuck with 10, 15, you're not going to be as
I unfortunately think 20 is the ceiling. Like I would be hoping for 15 starts and be happy with that. 20 being a huge success, 15 being the expectation, 10 being like the worst case scenario.
All we ask for Max Scherzer is we have Alek Manoah and Ricky Tiedemann both coming back mid-season from their arm surgeries. If he can just stay healthy to bridge the gap, kind of like a few years ago when Hyun-Jin Ryu went through his surgery. We lost, I forget who it was, but Hyun-Jin Ryu just stepped right. I think it might have been Manoah actually, but Hyun-Jin Ryu stepped right into that rotation and took over for the second half. That's kind of the blueprint we are trying to get out of Max Scherzer this year. And
Makes
if
sense.
we can go with that plan, it works well. I'll run through the rest of my spring training notes here very quickly. On the downside, honestly, the Blue Jays haven't really had a ton of players that have looked dreadful this spring. The only ones that really have are Yariel Rodriguez, who is just still walking the world, which we saw glimpses of last year. And we've now signed Ryan Yarbrough. With the Max Scherzer signing, he's out of our rotation anyway, so he's in the bullpen. I don't think that's going to be too big of a deal. And then Jake Bloss, who was one of the key returns in the Yusei Kikuchi trade we made from Houston. He has been, again, walking the world, giving up some monster home runs. But again, he's going to be starting the season in Buffalo, so that's not too big of a worry for us. And then on the position player side, again, don't want to take too much in spring, but out of all the guys who are going to get regular at bats, the only ones who are really struggling, if you will, are Addison Barger, and he's still 2 for 12, and Will Wagner, who's still 2 for 11. So if that's the worst guys on your roster right now, it's actually looking okay. So do you guys have a quick thought on any of those before we move on?
No, I mean, Yarbrough, I'm sure, is just lefty depth at this point for you guys. So nothing too crazy. I don't know what to make of Yariel Rodriguez. I want him to be good, but every time you expect him to step up, he doesn't. He almost takes a step backwards. That Boss kid's 23. Put him in Buffalo. Let him. That's why you have Scherzer. And maybe he makes a comeback towards the end of the year, gets his September call up. August, whatever. That's about it. I have no thoughts on Will Wagner, but you did tell me beforehand that he is Billy Wagner's kid, so that's a positive. He's got that going for him.
Yeah, I was actually going to say I'm saving my Will Wagner take for later because I know he came over the Kuchiki, whatever. I can't say his name ever, but he came over in that trade, and I've got a lot to say about him. So I think you guys are in a good position.
Hell yeah. Love that. Excited. We're hyped. We'll get to that a little later in the episode. I just have 5 more just random spring training thoughts that I was going to get Jesse's take on, but since he's not
12
here,
more.
you guys luckily get to listen to these, and then we can get on to the rest of the American League. I promise. Bring it. But one, Orelvis Martinez, who is our top prospect who got slammed with that 60-game PED suspension last year. I actually don't think he's going to make the roster now. He's been dealing with a bit of a virus this spring, and he hasn't played in a ton of games. So I think, and especially with Davis Schneider looking good, they're kind of competing for the same roster spot. So I think Orelvis might benefit from some at-bats in AAA. Alan Roden, who has been the biggest prospect. In fact, Ross Atkins, our GM, has brought him out. Blue Jays Twitter can't stop talking about this kid. Hit a home run off a Pittsburgh Pirates reliever who was throwing 96 the other day. I'm going to make the case for him making the opening day roster, but I'm going to write about it. So I want everyone to go click that and read that. But you'll like what I think on that. Guys, what do you think about the batting order? Because John Schneider was talking a bit about the importance of batting order, and it doesn't even have to be Blue Jay specific here, but he talked about having Bo lead off, Vlad 2, Santander 3, and he wants those 3 in the order. But how do you feel now about like the team's best hitter, if you will, hitting in that 2 hole in the lineup where traditionally is always 3rd or
4th? So it's definitely the batting order has changed a lot when you guys have had DH the whole time, right? So on the National League side, it's been a weird progression for us, right? Getting used to having that extra bat and that extra skill position, like as the Braves put, for the most part, we put our best hitter at number 1, and we've been doing that for a while. The Phillies put Schwarber at number 1. So there's been a lot of weird tweaks that have been happening. But it's tough to say, okay, you want to put your 3 best at the very beginning and then hope the 6 figure it out. I mean, I would rather not do that. I still think, 2, 3, 4 should be where your studs are, and then you figure the rest out. But sabermetrics, Moneyball, all that stuff counts now. And managers are getting creative, which I think is a part of the game now too. When you see different types of pitchers go, hey, let's change the lineup so that they don't know what's coming. And, I think that's a part of the head game too.
Yeah, I'm indifferent. There's so much data and numbers that I'm not really privy to that makes sense as to why, somebody bats here or there. The biggest part, in my opinion, is just protection, right? So if you're going to put Vlad, wherever you're going to put Vlad, you have to protect him, or else you're just going to walk him, right? That was my thing with Soto and Judge all last year. Is like, okay, well, get rid of them, and now you're dealing with, it was Anthony Rizzo for a while until Stanton turned into a freak again. But it's, if all I have to do is get through Vlad, and now I have a way higher percentage to get through Santander. Not that he's not good, but it's like, well, he doesn't hit 300, so I'm either going to give up a home run to him, strike him out, or we move on, and I'm okay with that. And then the question is, who's behind Santander?
Great question.
Okay, now I could now I can move around these guys, or wiggle around, pitch around, make them swing at back pitches, and now there's nobody behind these people. And that's not to be like, oh, put Vlad 4, right? You always need somebody there, but eventually there's just that drop off in the lineup. That's in every lineup across the league, that you're like, eventually you can't protect anybody anymore, and they're just gonna have to go do their thing. But I guess I'm fine with whatever is out there, just based on whatever numbers they're going to come up with. But Vlad 2 makes sense, I guess.
Right. Well, the 2 big things with the Blue Jays last season is that we got the second lowest home runs from our cleanup spot last year. Only the Chicago White Sox had fewer than we did. And we didn't hit our first home run from the cleanup spot. I think Bo Bichette hit one in like mid-May. And that was the first home run we got out of the cleanup spot in our lineup in a long time. So there's that. And then also last season, the Toronto Blue Jays set an American League record for consecutive games without scoring a run in the first inning. So now a lot of that was George Springer leadoff, and Bo Bichette was bad, 1 and 2, right? And then Vlad comes up with 2 out and nobody on. And he didn't really get into his power until late in the season anyway. So I think the plan is here doing this, that they are trying to improve on that this year.
Trying to start hot.
Trying to start hot.
That makes sense.
And plus, too, like if you get a run in the first inning, doesn't that make things easier for your starting pitchers as well? Like Chris Bassett had mentioned a few times last year, when your offense isn't scoring you runs, it's a struggle. Your pitchers are throwing more taxed innings. Chris is a Mariners fan. I'm sure you know all about it.
Yeah, we just don't score ever, let alone the first inning.
Yeah.
I like Jimenez near the top for you guys too, though. He could be snuck in there.
I agree.
We have options. Him and Will Wagner are definitely options, but we'll touch on that. 2 more notes before we start talking about the other team. Dalton Varsho has gotten into spring training games. He's still not ready to play the outfield, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be out long after recovering from shoulder surgery. Eric Swanson, who Chris might know well from his time with Seattle, has yet to pitch this spring. I'm starting to get a little worried about his availability for opening day, so keep that in mind. And you never want to see arm injuries with guys in spring anyway. It's usually a recipe for disaster. And our backup catcher options we have in spring, Christian Bethancourt, Ali Sanchez, both do not look like it for me. I think there is still a chance. I wrote about this actually, about Yasmani Grandal maybe coming in here late as a contract. Chris says no, he must hate the throwing.
He just stinks. He's washed. You don't want him.
Okay, well, it's either that or Tyler Heineman behind the plate. So
yikes,
it'll be one or the other. Yeah. So,
okay, well.
Notes on that.
That's on you. I got nothing else. I'm out.
All right. Backup catcher around the big leagues. Like the Braves have always had really good backup catchers throughout the history, and I've been very envious of that for the longest time.
Yeah, thank God we have depth in catching. So I think Bethancourt was in Atlanta for a little while back.
He's been a journeyman.
I think he started with us back in like 2015, 2014, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, no. So he's not with us any longer, but I do think he was definitely a big name coming up in our system.
Okay, noted. Well, that's it for our Blue Jay spring training roundup. Thanks for hanging with us with that, guys. Let's get into the main subject of the episode, 23 minutes in, might I add. And that's previewing the American League East. This has been a segment we've done every single year. It's kind of good to see what the other teams in our division have going for them, who we're going to compete against, who are the big players, the games that we're really going to have to win. Worth noting, guys, the Blue Jays did not play that well against the division last year. I don't have the exact record here, but it wasn't good. And that was part of the reason why we struggled to finishing 5th in that division last year. So how this is going to work, gentlemen, we're going to go team by team. We're going to go all 5 teams. We're going to start with the Blue Jays. I'm going to tell you a quick summary of how they finished last year, some of the key additions they made, the departures they had, whether or not you think they're going to be better or worse than last year, and kind of like the path, how things can go well, how things might fall apart if they do fall apart. And then I'll get you to pick a player you think is going to overperform, underperform, and then stab a win total at the division. Got it?
Boy. All right.
Okay. I hope you did your homework, boys. A lot of work here. But I want to start with just a simple question, guys. Who wins the American League East in 2025? And choose
the
wisely.
Yankees.
Andrew?
I'm going to say this with my whole chest, too. The Boston Red Sox.
The homer in me wants to pick the Toronto Blue Jays as well, but I think I'm on Team Andrew here. I do think it's funny. The one guy in the Red Sox shirt does not pick the Red Sox. I genuinely like what the Red Sox have done too. Yeah.
I think that there's a good argument to be made for the Yankees. I think that it's theirs to lose, but I do think they do lose it. So, but yeah, I understand why you would pick Yankees. I think Yankees, Red Sox are the 2 that you should be talking about.
Don't sleep on the Orioles either, but we'll get into that as we go a little forward here. All right, so let's dive into it then. The first team, obviously, is the Toronto Blue Jays. We got to touch on our team first. Last year, 74 wins, which was not ideal. Our key additions this offseason, Andres Jimenez. We returned Jimmy Garcia, who we really like over here. We got Nick Sandlin in that trade as well. We signed Jeff Hoffman to be our closer. We signed Max Scherzer, and we signed Anthony Santander and his 48 home runs. Only losing in the process, by the way, Spencer Horwitz and Jordan Romano, and I guess Jimmy Garcia to a minor league deal. That's really it that we've lost from our roster. from last year into this year. Guys, I've been telling people the path on how things can go right, but from the outside looking in, how do you think things could go right for the Toronto Blue Jays this year?
You're pitching. Well, it's got to be both. I think pitching took a step back. Again, your pitching staff's relatively old, all things considered. Gausman, Bassett, Scherzer, etc. There's a chance that they pitched above what everybody thinks they're going to do, and that's fine. But this is baseball. You also have to hit. We just named your top 3 in the batting order. Then it was like, who the hell's cleanup? Like, sure, you have Springer. Yes, you have Varsho. Yes, you have Jimenez. But they're not producing like they should be. Springer is definitely not the George Springer that came when he started. Varsho, I don't know. I'm waiting for him to just be the guy, but he just hasn't been. He's a stud defensively. I get that. And Jimenez, I'm not sure. He hasn't been good since he had a great offensively. He hasn't been great since he had that good season about 2 years ago. A lot of guys need to overperform. How about that? Yeah. You need a lot of overperformances from guys who you don't expect.
I'm not going to say overperform. So you guys lost the arms race, right? Boston's rotation is nasty. The Yankees rotation is nasty. Baltimore has a lot of really great guys. Pitching's not going to win it for you. You have to put up runs, period. Yes. In this division, if you're not scoring, you don't stand a chance. Instead of saying overperform, I think your studs have to perform to expectations, right? Bo Bichette, Vlad, those guys, they were coming in. You guys were the golden team. Like, look at all these young, hot new players, and the expectations were through the roof. And that's waned because they just haven't really performed. Vlad has made arguments. Bo has showed like streaks here and there. If they could perform at that level and actually put up runs, you guys can make a case for it. But if you see what you did last year with those offensive spells that just aren't putting up numbers, you're gonna get left in the dust, and then Vlad's gonna get traded at like the All-Star break for you guys to do a reset. That's the only thing that can. Those are your two options from the outside looking in, at least.
And normally when we talk about stuff like this too, we talk, oh, well, maybe we'll get a surprising prospect to come up. And unless it's Alan Roden, we have nobody else down there coming, which is a bad thing for the Toronto Blue Jays. You've kind of touched on both the positive and the negatives here. But guys, I want you to each give me a player you think will overperform or might exceed expectations, and then one player that'll underperform for the Toronto Blue Jays this year.
I'll start with the overperforming, and because I already kind of touched on it. I think Will Wagner could be a real bright spot for you guys. He has the pedigree. Obviously, we know who his dad is. When he came over last year in the trade, I think he played about 25 games. I might have that stat wrong. But he batted over 300. He has a lot of pop. I think he's going to play second for you guys. Is that right?
Well, Jimenez is second. He's going to be like Vlad's backup at first. There's a lot of DH at bats available, and he might be in a platoon against righties.
Okay, that makes sense. I think there's going to be at bats for him, and I think he's going to really show out. And I think you have a good stud there in the waiting. Will he have a breakout year? I don't know, but I think we'll see a lot of flashes of some like things that are going to make you very happy and positive about the future, because he is still really young. So that's who I think is going to be your breakout.
The Jays brass love Will Wagner for whatever it's worth. They purposely didn't fill that spot on the roster so they could get Will Wagner at bats, which says something.
I get it. Like I said, I've seen a couple of his at bats, and I mean, he's a lefty that hits hard. You got to love it.
Yep. Chris, how about you? Who's your player?
I'm going to go with Bo Bichette on the basis that I'm not sure what the consensus is right now. I don't know what you're expecting of him. And I think, quite frankly, I don't know if there's anybody that even knows what happened to him. You're talking about a guy who's, projected to have 200 hits a season, had 185 or something like that 2 years ago, and then fell off a cliff, crash, burn, everything. It could have been some injuries, all this trade talk. I feel like now he's maybe settled into whatever it is that his role is right now. He can focus on being healthy and just go back to work, maybe regain the power. I don't know what you'd prefer to see. If we want all the hits with all the power, I don't think we're going to get both. But if you can get back to a, 170 hit Bo Bichette. Well, now we're talking. Now you're in business. The offense should be rolling, especially in front of Vlad, who's going to do what everybody expects him to do.
I'm going to say something that might be kind of out there, but if Bo performs to his expectation, he's like a mini Bobby Witt, right? I mean, he has that kind of ability, and that
the speed's not there. That's the big difference.
The speed's not there. That's fair, but for the most part, he has a lot of the same intangibles, and so that's what you need, and that's what you want. And so I'm with Chris on that.
Like, I picture Willie Adames' season last year with Milwaukee. I think if we get that from Bo Bichette, I think that would be a good line and comp of what we want for him going forward. Just real quick, guys, no detail, but just give me a name. A player is going to underperform.
Bowden Francis.
Ooh, ow, that one hurts.
I know you're a big fan.
Sorry, Gausman.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. You know, it's going to hinge on our rotation. I'm going to say Chris Bassett, honestly.
That's a fair call.
Perfect. Do you guys want to give me a win total for our team?
What did we have last year?
They say 74. The over-under on you guys is what, like 76, 78? No,
it's
probably?
Like up to 80 and a half. Like
what?
It's up there. Oh yeah,
that's a lot.
77.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty safe at 78. I don't know if you guys crack 80, but you'll flirt with it. 80 feels high, unfortunately. But I mean, again, I think your potential is 85 if your offense shows up and Vlad has an MVP year, your pitching doesn't die because they're all old, then I think like your ceiling is 85. But I think 78 is probably around.
85 will flirt with a playoff spot, and we haven't won a playoff game since 2016, so we'll see what happens if we get there, but just get in the dance is what they say, right?
Exactly.
All right. Next team, I guess let's talk about those New York Yankees who last year got 94 wins, made it all the way to the World Series before they literally dropped the ball and could not get it done against the LA Dodgers there. They've added this winter Paul Goldschmidt, Max Fried, Cody Bellinger, Devin Williams, but they've lost some guys too. Juan Soto, most notably. They've also lost Gleyber Torres, Alex Verdugo, Anthony Rizzo, Nestor Cortez, and Clay Holmes. To make this effort of time, guys, one of you take the way the Yankee season go right. And I guess, Chris, we'll let you because you picked them to win the division. And then, Andrew, you can tell us how they go wrong. Go ahead.
Love it.
Fire away.
How it goes right. It starts with pitching for them. It's tough to sit here and say that they didn't already lose a guy in Luis Gil. You know, we talked about it on our pod the other day. I think he's going to be out for a while. It's already 3 months, but by the time you're talking rehab and getting back up to speed, you're not going to see him for a while. Enter Marcus Stroman. I know you guys are all familiar with him up here, but he'll be their 5. So he's not even going to really factor into too much at this point.
He's a starter, if you haven't heard. You know,
yeah, is, was, and always will be. But coming with a 4-man rotation before Stroman of Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Rodon, and then Clark Schmidt, I think they're in good shape. Back of the bullpen was pretty solid already last year with Holmes, but now you get arguably one of the top 5 closers in the league in Devin Williams. The hell's his name? Luke Weaver, I think. He had a good close to the end of last year. The Paul Goldschmidt move, that's pretty lateral to me. I think he has a little bit more than Rizzo left in the tank. What do we get out of Cody Bellinger? Does he just show out because he is now in a short porch? I think it's possible. My note for this was, does Dominguez stink, in all capitalized? I don't know. We're not sure. You're smiling. You would wish that would happen, but he's going to be forced into a role already, especially with Stanton missing some time. Stanton isn't the regular season performer he was. He's ready for the big moment, so they just need to get him ready for the fall. And then you clearly have Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge. Now, last year he had Soto in front of him, and he had a lot of opportunities for whatever reason to hit with guys on. Now they're expecting big things out of Jazz Chisholm. Who the hell's I guess they're expecting DJ LeMahieu to have a resurgence. They're expecting a lot of things from different guys that haven't done it. Again, we're talking
Austin Wells.
Yeah, he's their catcher, whatever. I'm indifferent on him. He's fine. I don't know.
Rookie of the year votes last year.
He'll hit 8. I don't know. Hey, whatever. But I think their lineup is enough. Just talking through it right there, they're at least 6 strong, arguably 7, depending on who you want to add in there. Maybe Dominguez doesn't care about spring training like I don't, and he's just going to turn it on for the regular season, knowing that he's got a pretty solid role. But I think they're just a well-rounded team altogether. They've got a good enough squad to make it through the entire, season, assuming they stay healthy. However, they haven't been healthy in quite some time, so that could lead to their demise. But I still got them winning the division.
And they can grow facial hair now, so we can't rule that out of there.
And let's not. I know I'm going over time here, but Juan Soto, losing him, they went the quantity route to try and replace him, and I don't know if they're going to get that right. They very well could out of Bellinger. A resurgence Jazz, I suppose, maybe Goldie, but now you're asking for 2 or 3 guys to do what one guy was doing. So they might lose a little bit, even though they added a ton of guys. But their pitching is going to be right up there with the best in baseball. So maybe they don't have to do as much offensively.
Chris, great points. I hated all of it. Andrew, go on through and give me the case about why the Yankees are going to falter this year.
Well, I mean, Chris gave us most of the arguments, right? You have a bunch of question marks. Can Jazz perform at the level they need him to? I don't think he can. Is there anything left in the tank for Bellinger? Nah, I don't know if there is. What do we do about Stanton? I don't know. Hopefully he'll be healthy enough. In the end, I think everybody's over the Judge show. He's hit his home runs. We've given him the juice balls. Guess what? It's time to pitch around him because now we can. Right. So he's not going to be he's good. I'm not trying to say he's not a great baseball player. He absolutely is. But he's going to start seeing less and less pitches that he can hit out of the ballpark or just hit in general. So you pitch around him, and that Yankees lineup now becomes, very manageable, right? And so I don't know how to talk around their pitching. Their pitching's awesome, right? I mean, their pitching is going to be very good. It's going to keep them in a lot of baseball games. It's going to be a good team, and it's going to be hard to beat them, but it's going to be a lot easier to beat them this year because they just don't have the pieces. Does Soto make that big of a deal? He's one guy. Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
He absolutely does. And taking him out of that lineup, Bellinger, you stack those guys that he mentioned, they still don't equal the same WAR that Soto had. They just don't, right? So I think that's really the key is stop pitching to Judge. Stop it. You don't have to pitch to him anymore. And I think a lot of teams are going to be able to do that. And I think the Yankees are extremely beatable. They're going to be scary in short series because they're going to throw out really, really good aces at you. And you're going to have to get those 1 or 2 runs and then hope that your pitching can get around Judge and don't make a mistake with some of the others that could punish you, but it's not nearly the threat that was looming last year. So I don't think the Yankees are going to be as terrifying.
There's a path to beating the Yankees now.
Correct.
Which,
there's a path.
There never was right before. And it reminds me of Shohei Ohtani's last year with the Angels. I remember he came into Toronto and I forget who was pitching, but they gave up a monster home run. But Kevin Gausman was pissed. I think he said, he's the only effing guy on their team that can hit. Yeah. Why the hell are you pitching to him?
Stop.
And it's going to be more of the same this year for them. I'm with you. All right, gentlemen, pick a player you think is going to overperform and then one that is going to underperform, and then hit me with a win total.
My overperform is because I already mentioned him. I think Wells. I think that guy's legit. I know Chris is ho-hum because apparently he hates catchers for whatever reason. But I think that guy is really good behind the plate. Really knows how to call a game. And I think there's a good chance he's going to be batting cleanup behind Judge for most of the year. Because who else is going to do it? I guess they could try Bellinger, but I just don't think that makes a lot of sense either. So I think Wells is going to be he's going to add on to his. I mean, he rookie of the year. He was a part of the conversation, obviously.
Yep.
And I think he kind of builds off of that. So I think he's the breakout.
I'm going with Bellinger. Former MVP, moving to a short porch, hitter friendly. I know, statistically his batted ball stuff probably doesn't look as great. However, Yankee Stadium's a homer dome. He's going to have his opportunities, especially if he's going to hit after Judge. There's going to be guys on base in front of him. I think he has a really solid bounce back year. And has a chance to really show out. And I forget what his contract is off the top of my head. I don't think it's anything crazy, but I think he has a chance to opt out if he could, right?
I think so. Yes.
What he signed for.
Yeah, so, he's a Boris guy. So yeah.
Yeah. So one of those where, one and dones that he can show out and leave for more money. So yeah, I'm all for that.
Clark Schmidt is my pick, guys. Ooh. I like what I saw from them in the postseason, and I hate saying nice things about the Yankees, but Clark Schmidt's a name that I like. And on the downside, guys, I don't think we're going to get much out of Carlos Rodon. He might strike out some guys, but he's also going to give up a bunch. And I'm with you. I think Paul Goldschmidt is cooked. And I'm kind of with you, Andrew, on Jazz Chisholm. I think he's going to be fine. He's going to be good, but I don't think he's going to be the guy that he was in the second half from New York last
No,
night.
And going to Goldschmidt is not a lateral move from Rizzo. I think he's going to be just as bad, if not worse. So, I'm with you on that.
With you. Anyone want to spit out a win total for the Yankees this year?
91.
I don't like that number.
It's fine.
But they won so many games last year. It's tough to. I think it has to be in the 90s, doesn't it? Let's go 89. Let's go 89.
Okay, I'm gonna say 82 because just because the Yankees, but there is a path. There is a path you can see where things don't go well with the Yankees.
I completely agree.
It's possible.
I'm wishing that into existence here.
I love it. Right. I love it. I hate the Yankees too. I'm with you. I just it's tough to bet against them. But yeah,
that's way too much Yankees talk for our Blue Jays podcast.
Yeah, let's move on.
So let's get into, I guess, the Boston Red Sox, and we'll do the reverse this time. Andrew, we'll have you talk them up. Chris, you can talk them down.
All right.
Last year, they were an exactly 500 team, 81-81. Their additions this year, Alex Bregman, Walker Buehler, Patrick Sandoval, Aroldis Chapman, and Garrett Crochet. And they only lost Kenley Jansen, Chris Martin, fan favorite over here, Danny Jansen, Nick Pivetta, and Tyler O'Neill are off of their roster. Guys, the Red Sox seem to be the darling team this year with some good players, a decent-ish rotation, and some young prospects on the way. Andrew, give me the case of why they're going to do well.
Yeah, so... It starts with pitching. I mean, we're going to talk about that till we're blue in the face. Like this starting lineup before they added the pieces were already very good, and now they add two proverbially aces for the most part, right? And so I think that this is probably the best pitching staff 1 through 4 in the majors this year, and so that's what everything rides on my side. Yes, there's a lot of really positive things on the prospect side. Roman Anthony being number 1, that's a name that get used to saying that kid's gonna be amazing. And I think this is one of those years that you're going to see a lot of Red Sox prospects start to pop, right? And they have a great farm system. So as a Braves fan, the way you win is by pitching and building a farm system. That's how we always did it. And that's what the Red Sox are doing right now. Added some really big pieces. I think that it's just going to be, look, last year we expected this team to be trash, right? I don't know anybody that thought that they were going to perform and be a part of the playoff conversation. And they were. And they just got better. A lot better. And so I think that this team is going to be the dark horse in the AL to make it to the World Series. I think they have the potential to be that good.
So you're buying in then to Walker Buehler, that like the guy you saw in the World Series in the playoffs last year is the real 100%. Walker Buehler.
Yeah, I think that Buehler had a chip on his shoulder for a long time, and I think he finally got to prove it. And now he's being brought in because of that skill set, and I think he's going to continue to ride that for sure.
And man, like I talk about their offense here too. Jarren Duran played a few games at Rogers Center last year that I was at. Impressed me. It's been amazing. A while since I've seen a player actually impress me like Jarren Duran has.
He's a great ball player, and I mean the offense. I think it will speak for themselves. I can't talk enough about how great this pitching staff is going to be.
Yeah, and Devers, Bregman seems a good fit there. And then what if like Trevor Story just bounces back? Like that would be a luxury they don't need. But like,
I mean, there's some drama there with Devers. He's like, I play third. Like he needs to just DH. He's the worst third baseman, defensively that we've seen in the majors, essentially. So, I mean, Bregman looks like he still has pop. He's already gone deep in spring training for what it's worth. If Story becomes
against Jake Bloss or Andrew Bash, Blue Jays pitcher, might I add.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and he hit it far, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that offense.
I'm aware.
That offense could be pretty potent too. And I mean, again, just like with the Yankees pitching staff, you don't have to put up big numbers, and this team only has to score 2 to 3 runs a game. They're going to do that pretty easily, especially if these guys perform the way we know they can, and say some of those younger guys like Roman Anthony pop off. I mean, it's going to be tough to beat those guys.
Chris, give me the downside.
The downside, I think, and this might be true of another team we're going to talk about as well, but all of these prospects can't be as good as everybody says, right? There's no team in the history of Major League Baseball that hits on every single prospect that comes through, right? Yes, Roman Anthony's number one consensus. Legit. That's fine. They could have him. But everybody's talking about this Christian Campbell kid. He kind of came out of nowhere. He might make the roster. He might start. He might not. I don't know what the hell is going to happen with him. But there's, I know you guys were just talking him up in Jarren Duran. He had a very good season last year, but very, very good. Is he here to stay? That was one season out of nowhere. He's 28 years old. So his breakout, did he just enter his prime just out of the blue? Potentially. But I'm willing to say he's going to take a little bit of a step back. From there, Trevor Story. We want to talk about him coming back. He hasn't been relevant for 5 years.
Yep.
Now we want him to be the shortstop of the best team in the American League. That's not going to happen. Right. It's just not, I'm being, logical. I would assume now they might be able to reshuffle some stuff, but now you got guys playing out of position, right? You got Bregman at short. You got Campbell at second. What are you going to get out of him? And who the hell knows what's going on with Tristan Casas? I don't know if anybody likes him. I don't know if he's any good. I want him to be good. I have him in like 4 different fantasy teams.
Hey, me too, buddy.
So it's like, I want him to be good. He's young. He's talented. He's got power for days, but he's an odd duck. He says some stuff he probably shouldn't say. And so I don't know how that's all perceived. So maybe he doesn't, who knows? Their DH being Yoshida for right now. They're trying to trade him. So they haven't. So not to say there's locker room trouble. Like their pitching's very good. At least their staff to get through a season. They're 6 deep, just off the top of the head. So they just have chance to lose some steam. Devers is Devers. I have no problem about him. Bregman is fine. I think he's going to play well in Fenway. But they have those just question marks. And maybe I eat crow and Jarren Duran turns into one of the best players in baseball still. That's fine. But I just don't see him being throwing out another top 20 performance. And all those other guys playing up to snuff. Roman Anthony playing to the caliber of Cody Bellinger per se. No, that's not going to happen, at least this year. That's where I'm going. And if we're going to go guy for guy comparing teams across the board, I don't think that they match up quite that way. Their pitching might be a tad better, but I don't think their lineup does.
Chris, I like the case. You make a lot of good points. I love that. Give me the surprise player and then the disappointment player, and with some pace if we could.
Surprise player. Talk about a guy who hasn't done anything. Lucas Giolito.
Nice. There you go.
I like him.
Wasn't he the worst qualified pitcher in baseball 2 years ago?
Potentially, but he had a few things. He had a few things done. He got touched up a little bit. We're good.
Perfect. I love that. Andrew, what's yours?
I mean, this is not a surprise player, but I think Garrett Crochet has a lot more in his tank. He was on a pitch count last year after the All-Star break. I think he's going to be challenging Skubal for the Cy Young this year. I think he's going to be massive.
I like that pick. I want to give a shout out to Liam Hendricks, who is working his way back from all of his issues, who's going to end up in the back of that bullpen. Shout out to him. He could be an impact piece too. Give me, guys, a player who might disappoint this season.
Chapman.
It's easy to root against.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Jarren Duran.
I hate that pick.
You could be wrong.
And Andrew, I don't really think I believe in Walker Buehler either. So you're gonna not let's see both of these ones here. Yeah. Right. I think even though he was good and some of the stuff on his pitches came back in the postseason, I'm not necessarily buying it all the way coming back from his second Tommy John surgery. So there's that. Want to take a number quickly at a win total for the Red Sox?
92.
85.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 94 because I do think Garrett Crochet and all them. I think that offense is better than we think. I do think they're going to win this division. Okay. All right, guys, we'll go through these next two teams very quickly, but we got to talk Baltimore Orioles here, who last year finished second, 91-71. They, like the Blue Jays, also haven't won a playoff game in a long, long time. Their additions, not much. Ramon Laureano, Dylan Carlson, Andrew Kittredge, Charlie Morton, Tomoyuki Sagano, Gary Sanchez, Tyler O'Neill, and they lost James McCann, Anthony Santander, John Means, Eloy Jimenez, and Corbin Burns off of that. Guys, just quickly here, the case for, the case against. Whoever wants to be the positive guy can go for it.
I'm going to be the negative guy. So, Chris, you have positive.
Chris, go positive.
For it.
Yeah.
All their prospects work out, contrary to the Blue Jays. Right? No. They're a little bit more seasoned, right? Gunnar had a great season last year. He continues to impress. Mountcastle stays healthy. A lot of these guys, and it's with every league, but a lot of these guys need to stay healthy. But these guys need to pan out. I think even more than the Red Sox, are relying on these young guys to come through in a big way. Westberg had a solid season, is expected to continue doing big things, got hurt. Hopefully he bounces back fine. This Kobe Mayo kid is supposed to be another stud that they've got. If he's supposed to be everything that he's talked up to be, they'll be fine. Everybody is so down on Jackson Holiday right now. The kid's still only 20 years old. He's got a lot of room to still be better. That's about the only huge positives I can give, because I don't love their outfield. Yes, I like Tyler O'Neill, but I don't care that much for him. I love Colton Cowser. I'll give him that. I guess it's all these young guys, Cowser, Kerstead. They signed Ramon Moreno. Cedric Mullins still hangs out there. He'll probably rob the Mariners of something every once in a while. Let's not forget Adley Rushman. Hopefully he bounces back. He lost a lot of power, bat speed, all that. I'm going to start the negative talk for Andrew, and hopefully he goes here. I don't love their rotation. I don't think they have enough to get it done in that division, in the league, anywhere. They lost too much. They went quantity, right? They went Charlie Morton, the Sagano guy. He's not a big strikeout guy. Maybe he works out in here. Maybe he gives a little Imanaga in him. Other than that, I don't love it. Grayson is currently tricep injury right now. Don't love the sound of that at all, because they don't really have a backup plan. Bradish doesn't come back till July. All right, I'm done. I was supposed to be positive, but we're going to try. Felix Bautista's coming back. I do love that.
Love that. There you go. It's kind of bullshit that Jackson Holiday's one good week in his rookie season came when he hit 3 home runs in a series in Toronto. Kind of crap, but so be it. And Ryan Mountcastle and Cal Raleigh are the two people in baseball who just own the Blue Jays every time they play them.
Oh, yeah. He does.
Ryan Mountcastle, to me, is like a top 5 player in all of baseball. Just
for those 13 games a year.
Yeah. But all right, Andrew, give us the downside.
All right, I'm going to be quick. The downside is the prospects aren't panning out. I mean, look, Cowser fell off a cliff. Rushman's not adding up. There is no one in the outfield. O'Neill's a platoon guy, like you said. They're pitching. So I would make the case that their rotation is worse than the Blue Jays. No offense. And that's not good. That's pretty bad, right?
Until now.
So I just they have a bright spot in Gunnar. That's true. Jackson could be a breakout star. I actually still think that there's potential there, but man, he's got a lot to figure out. So I just think these young guys, there's too much tape on them. The teams know how to pitch around them. I don't think that this lineup scares anybody anymore. I think we see a step back this year.
I think
potentially it's what happened with the Blue Jays. Like, you guys had a bunch of young studs, looked awesome, and then once there was tape and people figured out who they were, there was a pretty steep nosedive, and we're going to see that from the Orioles.
Yeah, it's that rotation that is going to be their downfall. And behind Felix Bautista and maybe Andrew Kittredge, even their bullpen is old. They're older than you think they are out of that bullpen, which I watched a very bad bullpen last year, and it can just sink a team. So it could be the same in Baltimore. All right, guys, just give me a name, player you like, player you don't like, and a win total.
I'm going to say I do like Jackson Holiday. I think that he can be elite player. So I'm gonna highlight him. If he has another bad season, I'm gonna stop talking about him. Right? I mean, end all be all. He's got a lot of hype, and so it's time to put up or shut up. So it's that. So I would say Jackson is my breakout and not, because if he plays well,
both, eh?
yeah, he's gonna, because this kid has to do something.
Chris,
I'm gonna go with Ryan Mountcastle.
Okay.
I think he's due to just play better, be better. He had 13 home runs last year. Probably 6 of them against your team. But
I'll
generally speaking,
but yes,
he has the makings. He's a pretty solid player, but for whatever reason, like the power isn't there. They did move the fence in a little bit, so maybe that helps. I'll go downside. I'm gonna just say the rotation. I think it takes a step back. I hope it's not for Grayson, everybody but Grayson. But just generally speaking, they're just not set up to be that successful. Zach Eflin, like everybody's just meh. They're all a bunch
Morton's
of
like 50
starters.
years old now.
They're all a bunch of 3 starters. They're doing the old St. Louis Cardinals and Minnesota Twins trick of just compiling number 3 starters. And I don't love that in this tight of a division. They're not in the Central. They can't make that happen.
I am sad I can't call it Baltimore anymore because of their big wall they had out there in the outfield. So with you on that. I'm with you on Mountcastle, though. I do think he's going to have a good season. Zach Eflin was my bust. If Zach Eflin is the ace of your baseball team, you have no chance. I'm sorry.
Yes, that's why we need it to be Grayson. Yes. But, you're expecting number 2 things out of Eflin. Sure. That's not going to go well.
All right, guys, give me a number. Win total for the Baltimore Orioles this year.
82, 83, whatever, less than the Red Sox.
Yeah, I was going to say 81.
I had 82 as well, but I do want to note there is huge variance either way. It could be really high or really low, and we get to that in the thing. Guys, Tampa Bay Rays, don't have to spend too much time on this. 80 and 82. Their stadium got blown up, so they'll be playing in a spring training, the Yankee Stadium. Same dimensions as Yankee Stadium for what it's worth over there. The Blue Jays historically have been awful at the Trop, so I'm kind of glad we get to play the Rays outside of Tropicana Field, so that is good. Last year, 80 and 82. Their big addition, guys, was Ha-Seong Kim, who won't play until May, maybe, if then. They did add Danny Jansen. They got Joe Boyle from a trade with the Athletics and Alex Faedo. They didn't lose much, though. Jeffrey Springs is probably the notable one. Tyler Alexander, Colin Poche, and Jose Siri as well. Guys, in like 2 minutes or less, can you give me the case there?
They're the Rays. Don't completely count them out, and you're going to get weirded out when you look at – they're the ultimate team where you look at the lineup and you're like, what is going on right now?
Who are these guys?
And how did we just get swept, or how did we lose 3 out of 4 to the Rays?
Right, like how did Johnny DeLuca have 5 hits against us? Right?
I'm not going to count them out. I'm looking at their team. They got like 9+ infielders and 4 outfielders listed, but Morel's probably going to play outfield. They still have the brothers Lau, right? They have Josh Lau, Brandon Lau. I don't think they're brothers. I don't even know if they're related, if I'm being honest. Junior Caminero tweaked his back, but he's supposed to be even better than Mayo is. Jose Caballero, they just have like all of these utility. Curtis Mead's having a fantastic spring. For those who actually care about that, I don't, of course not. Catching's whatever, and pitching. McClanahan's back, and then their hodgepodge of just young guys: Taj Bradley, Shane Baz. There's another guy with
Mason Montgomery.
Pepio. They've got some guys to make noise. I'm not going to count them out, and I'll put them right in line with everybody else at like 83, 84 wins.
Yeah, the Rays are somehow a team. We talk about this every year. How do they figure it out? But they do, right? I don't know how this team always stays competitive. Whatever they're drinking down there, I wish all major league teams could do that, because they turn nobodies into studs. I think that their infield can be very good. Caminero, like Chris had mentioned, but Carson Williams, who is their young shortstop, has the ability to be a real stud. He's got a lot of the intangibles that I think we'll start talking about him the same way we do Caminero, and that infield's going to be young and talented. Don't sleep on their Mason Montgomery. Talking about pitching, he used to be a starter. Now he's dominating in the bullpen. He'll probably be a closer at some point. I think he can also make a name for himself, but I mean, I agree with Chris. Like, they're somehow gonna win 80 games. I don't know how or why, but they always seem to figure it out. So I'll put the over under. I mean, I'll go 79, but if they win 85, I would be like, well, it's the Rays. I guess that checks out.
Chris, give me your number while we're at it.
What did I say? I said 83.
Nah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go 75 just because somebody's gonna falter a little bit in this division.
Okay.
But I'm with you. The Rays have always been good at just turning these nobodies into a bullpen arm, and they've always had a fantastic bullpen. And having a good bullpen will always make you win more games than you lose, even though your true talent isn't exactly there. Shout out to Junior Caminero, who you said was a monster. He hit like a bunch of home runs in that Caribbean series. He's also got 3 home runs this spring. I heard you guys talk about it on your show. So
yeah, he's gonna be a stud.
He's doing stuff like Jose Bautista did before his monster breakout. So I just want to throw that out there for him. Don't sleep on Jonathan Aranda. I've always liked the guy. I've always liked him as a prospect. It does seem to playing within the field that will have Yankee Stadium dimensions, a left-handed bat there. I think we could be looking at the best season from his career as well. Do you guys want to give me a name quick on who you like, who you don't?
It's tough not to pick Caminero, but I'm going to go with Carson Williams just because I already mentioned him. Let's do that.
I like the pick.
I don't even know if this guy's going to make the team, but I saw him like chop at a ball and end up on first base. What's his name? Chandler Simpson.
Oh,
he's
the
like
fast guy.
Yeah, he's like Billy Hamilton, like on steroids or something. That guy's remarkably fast. I don't even know if he's going to make the team, but let's just put him out there because what he's doing, he's just electric. He is incredibly fast, and that's actually kind of cool.
Oh, you like speed, Chris? You like stolen bases, Chris?
No, I like hitting to the third baseman who's playing up and ending up on first base. I don't know how he did it. It was remarkable.
That's a name you should know for your fantasy league if you want some free fantasy advice.
You want stolen bases? Get that guy. He'll have 100.
Perfect. All right. We're at our hour mark, but guys, I did want to throw just 3 rapid fire questions at you. So in true rapid fire, let's hit them. Hit them. Here we go, guys, because this would be a little bit of fun. But the first one, guys, as fans of the game, as fans of players, what is your best interaction you've ever had with a major league player?
Ooh, best interaction. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, it's so I grew up going to the Braves games, all that good stuff, right? When you played Little League, there was always a game where you got to walk around the stadium, right? So hundreds of kids get to do that. We were on our way to do that, and Sid Bream, who, if you're not a Braves guy, you're not going to know the name, but he will live in.
I know him from
in my head
92 World Series.
Exactly. Yeah. The slide is like one of the my first big sports moments is when he slid under the tag against the Pirates. But he was on like a golf cart. Nobody recognized him. He had already retired at that point, I think. And so, but I knew who Sid Bream was. And I yelled, "Sid Bream, you're my favorite player." And he goes, "You're the first guy to recognize me," like as he's speeding away. So I think that's the first thing that sticks out.
That's cool. Chris, did you have one?
I'm gonna do 2. One was a quick one. Met Prince Fielder outside of Citizens Bank Park. He missed the team bus, was waiting on a cab. He's literally my height. I was eye level with him. I was like, this doesn't even make sense. Saw him at baseball, so that was cool. He was just a super nice guy. Other one, I grew up in Scranton, PA. They were the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Red Barons, now home of the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Raiders, Yankees, but they were the Phillies. Amare Telemaco. He bought me an ice cream cone once. I used to hang out behind home plate while they charted pitches. Like back in the day, they would be behind home plate and be like, so 2 pitchers. So I hung out with like Ryan Madsen all the time, if you remember him.
Nice.
But yeah, Mario Telemaco bought me an ice cream cone just because I was hanging out there. He's like, go get me one too. So that was pretty cool. Just so you know, I happened to see it when I was looking at my phone. I know you're tuned in.
Yeah.
There's some Vlad news. I saw your eyes starting.
Vlad news. I was looking at a Lawrence Butler extension.
Okay, that did happen, but this was from Passan. I'll read it all. I'll break it for you. Toronto first baseman Vlad Guerrero Jr. told Enrique Rojas and I don't know the other guy, Ernesto Jerez, that he proposed a contract to the Blue Jays for 15 years and less than $600 million. And there's a whole article.
Yep, I saw that report come out earlier as it was a Spanish language transaction, and they were going through it. But now that Passan reported it, it's real.
Yeah,
so
now it's never true until Passan. I don't believe anything until Passan tweets it.
Facts.
Yeah, we'll touch on that next episode.
Go ahead.
My quick story I want to share quick is I had Diego Castillo, the former Rays reliever, tell me to F off one time.
Nice.
Because I was sitting in the left field bullpen. He was in the bullpen, so I was sitting right behind him. I forget who the hell their left fielder was, but Springer was up, and I'm like, "Hey, buddy, right-handed hitter, you got to shift over," trying to get in his head a little bit. And then Diego Castillo looked around, stared me dead at the eye, and told me to F off. So
love that.
That was fun. Had that one. 2 more questions, guys. What is a baseball tradition, like a Major League Baseball tradition, that you actually still like?
Ooh.
And I can go first if you need some time to think.
Yeah, go ahead. Give me yours.
Okay. One of my favorite rules that has been around since like the early days of baseball, back before they even had gloves, and it's in the official Major League Baseball rule book, is that the game of baseball is not official unless the umpire says play ball before the first pitch. So if the umpire does not say that, it is not an official game. So I kind of like that. It brings the child's element to the game of baseball still.
That's pretty awesome. I love that for sure. Mine's not an actual rule, but it's something that you see many baseball players still abide by, and that you don't step on the line when you come in and out of the dugout.
Yeah,
like
love that.
You see it happen all the time. They'll be looking in another direction, and they look down and they see the line, and you see that weird like jump and skip out of the way. It's because you don't step on the line. So I think that's something that I did as a kid, and I still see today, and I think that's pretty. I don't know why, but that's just kind of how everyone acts.
Alek Manoah does a full-on hop, like he's jumping over that thing every time.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that's the easy one as a kid. I have to be honest with you. You stumped me here. Once
nice.
He said step over, and I was like, don't step on the mound because Dallas Braden will try to kick your ass. But that's about it. That's all I really got. I can't even. You stumped me for rapid fire.
Wow.
All right. Well, good. You'll think of something. We'll lie in bed at like 3 a.m. tonight.
I'll let you know. I'll tweet it out.
What a letdown.
And guys, I know you're music guys over here, so a simple question that every baseball fan has asked, but what would your walk-up song be?
Oh my God. There's so many. So mine right now, I think would have to be A Day to Remember. And it's just the part where it's like, da, 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 but not getting to the guitar part, just that repeated over and over again. I think that would be really fun.
2 songs. I'm going to pick 2 on this one since I didn't give you one on the last one. 1, Mambo No. 5.
Hell yeah.
And 2 is Regulators.
Yeah, okay. I mean that's pretty good.
Those are my 2.
There's a lot of good ones. I'd probably be the guy, honestly, that mixes it up as soon as I go 0 for 4 in a game.
100%
new. But I want something to get me amped up, get me going. I'd probably play some Chevelle or something.
I love Chevelle. That's nice.
Tim Meza used to walk out to Remember When by Chevelle, and it's a shame that he sucked his last year here because I missed hearing Chevelle every time I went to the Dome.
That's pretty awesome.
There's that. But yeah,
Chris, I'm surprised you didn't pick Mac Miller. I expected a Mac Miller song.
Yeah, but Mambo No. 5 just gets me
going every time.
It gets the people going.
I do like how in Colorado Charlie Blackmon always had the outfield song, like I Don't Want to Lose Your Love, and then music would stop and the whole crowd would go tonight.
Yeah,
I thought that was really cool.
Awesome.
It's always good to have like a little sing along, let everybody get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm trying to think of what song could throw people off. That's just, I mean, I don't know. Never mind. I can go down this for a long time. So
don't play Baby Shark. So, all right. Well, gentlemen, that'll do it for episode here today. Thank you everybody for listening, for tuning in. Thank you guys both for joining me. Guys, do you want to give a shout out or a plug to your show here while we're at it?
Yeah, I'm Andrew. This is Chris. We're Coach's Son podcast. We are on all of your major networks. So, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. So please give us a listen. We'd love to talk everything baseball. And we're just a bunch of fans that love to talk ball.
Yeah, we've got our division previews coming up. You guys have already submitted one to us, so you could actually listen to Jesse Squared on our show. Now, it's not in this form. We definitely owe you an episode of ours. Andrew's just told me no a bunch of times. But anyway.
Way to throw him under the bus, my guy.
No, I'm joking. But yeah, we're definitely going to reciprocate. We this is awesome. We really appreciate you having us on.
Yes.
But thanks for having us. It was awesome.
No problem. Figured if we're going to talk one episode where we don't talk strictly Blue Jays, we got to get the boys on the show.
Love it.
Would recommend their show too. I don't think I've missed an episode in the last year and a half. So it's they've been doing good things. Keep it up. Buy Chinook Seedery and go on from there. Gentlemen, thank you once again. And for everybody who's listening, we will be back next week to talk some X factors for the Toronto Blue Jays. So if you want to hear some Bo Bichette, Dalton Varsho, Andres Jimenez, and a deeper dive into those going forward, we will have that next episode before we do our bold predictions. And guys, then we're into the regular season. It is so close, 3 weeks away from opening day. For Jesse Teresa, who couldn't be here, for Chris, for Andrew, I am Jesse. Thank you all for joining us, and let's go Blue Jays. Oh God, where's the thing? This is great radio.
Oh, we're alive still.
Still alive, yeah.
Yeah, yikes.